If I push harder, I can make sure you don't get the job. If you don't want that, apologize to me." I couldn't help but laugh. "All right, go ahead and try. My name is Mary. I'm navigating the challenges of being a new mom on my own, because my husband, who should be sharing this journey with me, is nowhere to be found." Looking back, I didn't fully grasp my husband's true nature until I became pregnant. He was my senior at work, 6 years older, a sharp and dedicated professional. When he became my supervisor, he was always calm and kind. As we grew closer, our relationship blossomed into marriage. I was just beginning my career when I fell in love with my husband. Marrying him felt like a dream come true. At our company, employee marriages aren't uncommon, but once married, couples aren't allowed to work in the same department. After lengthy discussions with the company, it was decided that I would be the one to transfer. I had earned my patent attorney license while still in college, a feat known to be quite challenging, so I was hired as an in-house patent attorney at the head office. During my first year, I rotated through various departments to gain a comprehensive understanding of the company, and by chance, I was placed in the sales department where my husband worked. So when we got married, they decided to move me to the legal department a bit earlier than planned. 5 years into our marriage, I went to the hospital because I wasn't feeling well, and was surprised to learn that I was already 4 months pregnant. We had decided to let things happen naturally, so discovering we were expecting a child filled us with joy. But as I entered my second trimester, the morning sickness returned with a vengeance, and I had to take a 3-month leave from work. That's when my husband's true nature emerged. "Are you just lying there? I'm so anemic I can barely move. And what about dinner? You're seriously asking me that right now?" When I was working, we used to share the household chores equally, but the moment I took leave, he left all the responsibilities on my shoulders. "You're home all day, but you don't do any chores. Can you please stop? You're making me feel even worse." "Hold on. That's a mental issue, not anemia. You're just using your pregnancy as an excuse to be lazy." My husband cranks up the volume on the TV, ignoring me as I lie in bed. Then he deliberately leaves the door open so the loud noise floods the room where I'm trying to rest. "Please close the door," I plead. I know he can hear me, but he acts like I'm not even there. This was when I discovered a whole new side of him. He would sit in front of the TV, constantly criticizing the women on screen. "How did she get on TV? She's so ugly. Wow, she's really fat. He's got some nerve." He never stopped complaining about the shows, droning on and on. "Is that really how you're supposed to enjoy TV? Sure, you can think whatever you want, but why open the door to the room where I'm trying to sleep?" Just wish he'd stop with the constant complaints. "Please, close the door," I asked. But my husband ignored me. The TV blared on, and he kept talking back to it, things I didn't want to hear. I couldn't stand it any longer, so I got up, closed the door myself, and went back to bed, but he quickly opened it again. "Hey! Why did you open the door?" I snapped. He didn't respond and kept watching TV. Unable to tolerate it any longer, I decided to call my parents. My mother agreed to have me come home to rest and recover. The environment at my parents' house felt like a true sanctuary. They provided me with 3 nutritious meals a day, and the calm demeanor of my mother, father, and 2 younger sisters created a peaceful atmosphere. My sisters were the first to rush home from school to check on me, always asking how I was doing. Gradually my health improved and I was able to join the family for meals in the dining room. "Lunch is ready," my mother announced. "Thank you. May I turn on the TV?" I asked. "Of course," she replied. As I ate lunch with my mother, we watched TV together, and she laughed heartily at the comedian on screen. "This comedian is hilarious. Once the baby is born and things settle down, let's visit that shopping arcade," she said. Seeing her so relaxed and joyful brought tears to my eyes. My mother noticed and was startled when she saw me wiping my nose. "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" she asked, concerned. "No, I'm fine," I replied. Then what's the matter? I'm not happy living with Nico, I admitted. Oh. Why is that? I confided in my mother about everything that had been happening. She listened intently and accepted my feelings without judgment. So he really does that on purpose. He opens the door to your room, even though it's loud, and then when you close it he just opens it again. And he's constantly complaining about the TV. I can't believe it, she said with a mix of surprise and concern. I used to laugh along with him when we watched TV together. That's the problem. You're right. With the baby on the way, I can't imagine him behaving like this around the child. Well, I think you need to have a serious talk with him. I don't want to see him anymore, I said firmly. Mary, you're going to be a mother now. You can't just cut him out of your life like that. You have a child to think about. You're right, I conceded. For the sake of my child, I decided I needed to have a serious conversation with my husband. Feeling much better, I took a 2-month leave of absence and returned to work. I went back to the house where I had lived with my husband. The rest of the house was immaculate and well maintained. He seemed to be managing well on his own, but the smell in the air was unpleasant. I wondered if it was just my heightened sense of smell during pregnancy. When I opened the door to my room, I was shocked. It was in a terrible state, almost like a dump. The smell was coming from this mess. It looked as though he had been eating in there. Unwashed dishes and garbage were strewn across the floor. Just then my husband came home. What, you're back? He asked, surprised. What's going on here? I demanded, looking at the state of my room. What do you mean, what's going on? He replied, feigning ignorance. My room. It's a complete mess. What happened? It's a consequence for neglecting your chores, not taking care of me, and running back to your parents. And you've gained weight. Don't get any heavier or I'll divorce you. You weren't like this before I got pregnant. Why the sudden change? I've always been like this. You just didn't notice. If you don't take care of me, pretend to be sick or go back to your parents, I'll make things worse for you. What about the child? I asked. He responded, confused. If we prioritize our child, then you should start taking better care of yourself. That's how it's supposed to be when the child is still small. You're being ridiculous. I come first. Don't you understand? The child comes second. Now, get up and make dinner. I'm going to stay at my parents' house, I said firmly. Oh, that's fine. I'll just find another way to punish you later, he replied dismissively. In the end, we couldn't resolve anything, and I decided it was time to divorce my husband. I returned to my parents' house to talk things over with them. Didn't expect things to get this bad, I said. What can I say? He's a twisted piece of work, my mother replied. He's a complete scumbag, my father added. No, he's a real scumbag, my mother corrected. What are you all talking about? I asked, a bit bewildered. My family's support brought me comfort. My baby and I were well taken care of, and we received a warm welcome from them. As time passed, I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Although my parental leave was supposed to last a year, with my mother's help, I returned to work 6 months after giving birth. Everything I do is for the sake of my son. I'm determined to work hard and provide for him. On my day off, I went to my husband's house to finalize the divorce. When he saw me, he smirked and waved the divorce papers in front of me. I'm divorcing you, a fat wife like you. Here are the papers, he taunted. Oh, I'm glad you're so prompt. You can just sign them now, I said. As I reached for the papers, my husband quickly crumpled them up. What are you doing? I demanded. Hold on. You need to hear my side of the story first. What do you mean? Just listen to me. Look at me, he insisted. No, you said you're divorcing me. I heard you. Now go ahead and finalize it. You think you can't survive without me. I've managed perfectly well without you for the past 6 months. In fact, it's been quite peaceful. I'm a salesman, he said. So, I'm the one who brings in business for the company. That's why you all have jobs. Are you serious? A company is only as good as its salespeople. Show me some respect, he insisted. Just sign the divorce papers, I said firmly. I pulled the divorce papers from my bag, but my husband tried to rip them up and throw them away. What do you think will happen if you destroy them? I asked. His hand paused. I then took out a voice recorder and my phone from my bag. I recorded our entire conversation, I said. He reached out and took the voice recorder from me. The phone is connected to my colleague, I said. Even if you tear up the divorce papers or delete the recordings, my colleagues are hearing everything. If you don't sign these papers now, I'll have my colleagues file a complaint with the sales department. So, what's it going to be? Sign them, or tear them up? My husband, clearly realizing the seriousness of the situation, nodded and began filling out the divorce papers. I don't want any alimony or child support. Just stay away from us, I said. All right, I've signed the papers, he replied. I quickly left the house. Thanks, Mom, I said into the phone. It's all right. Just head to the city office, she advised. My phone was connected to my mother, and I was relieved that he hadn't discovered my deception. Although I could have enlisted help from my colleagues, I couldn't involve the company in this personal matter, no matter how much of a jerk he had been. The company was crucial to both of us, but he rendered my final gesture of mercy meaningless. After the divorce was finalized, my ex-husband took advantage of the situation to spread damaging rumors about me. He painted me as a terrible wife and a moral harasser, using every means to launch a negative campaign against me. Despite his attacks, I chose to remain silent and didn't engage with his accusations. They say a mother is a strong woman. For the sake of my child, I stood my ground despite the circumstances. I had done nothing wrong except be blind to my ex-husband's true nature. Unfortunately, sympathy for him began to surface among the sales department at the company. I was washing my cup in the hot water supply room when I heard my ex-husband's voice behind me. Hey. And around, puzzled. What? Why are you here? He asked, somewhat annoyed. I came to see you, I replied. Actually, you don't need to. You're in a lot of trouble right now. What do you mean? You're the one everyone's talking about. You're the bad guy now. I don't understand what you're saying. Just don't act so tough. You're the talk of the company. All right, I said, trying to process his words. My ex-husband probably thought I was feeling defeated, but I wasn't about to let him off the hook. I have work to do, so I'll be going now, I said, turning to leave. As I tried to exit the hot water supply room, my ex stepped into my path. That's what happens when you cross me, he said, his tone menacing. What exactly are you implying? I asked, not backing down. His irritation grew as he realized I wasn't reacting the way he expected. That's why you're getting a bad reputation around the company. And? You're in trouble, aren't you? No, not at all, I replied calmly. If I use my influence, I could even prevent you from getting the job. Apologize to me if you don't want that to happen, he threatened. Couldn't help but laugh. Go ahead, I said, unbothered. Do you even know what I do? Only people in the development department would have that knowledge. I'm a patent attorney. How could a sales manager like you possibly interfere with my work? Our fields are completely unrelated. Are you suggesting you can influence a patent decision by talking to me? You'll never get anywhere with that approach. If you're applying for a patent, make sure you don't deal with me. Enraged, my ex-husband snatched my cup from my hand and raised it, ready to strike. I braced myself, quickly closing my eyes. That's enough. An unfamiliar voice interrupted. When I opened my eyes, I saw the general sales manager and the general manager restraining my ex-husband. I initially thought it was just a lover's spat, but this is quite unexpected, the general manager said. My ex-husband looked shocked at their sudden appearance. I'm sorry about the disturbance, the general sales manager said to me. Are you hurt? No. I'm fine, I replied. You were speaking so loudly that we could hear you all the way in the conference room, the general manager added. My ex-husband, stunned by the general manager's intervention, remained frozen in place. The general manager then escorted him away, and that was the last time I saw him, as he resigned shortly after. Adjacent to the hot water supply room where the confrontation took place was a conference room. This room hosted regular meetings attended by the general manager, the sales manager, the deputy general manager of the legal department, and department heads, along with top salespeople. During the meeting, my ex-husband's angry outburst was clearly audible. His public outburst and abusive behavior exposed his true nature. He had previously portrayed me as a moral harasser and a terrible wife, but the tables turned and he was revealed as a violent and power-hungry individual. His inability to handle the situation and the mercy I had shown him were ultimately destroyed by his own actions. In the end, he got exactly what he deserved. I no longer know what became of my ex-husband, nor do I care. I'm simply relieved to have him out of my life. Truth has a way of revealing itself eventually, and with him gone, the source of my stress has vanished. Now I'm determined to focus on my work and strive to be a mother my son can be proud of. Reflecting on it, I wonder what my ex-husband's true intentions were. It all seems so meaningless in hindsight. Nevertheless, I'm grateful that Mary is thriving.